In this video, we're going to work with an image that we have set up as a template, and we're going to work on a new layer. Here's our template layer. This is an image by a British artist named Annett, and you can find her contact information in the notes below the video. So we're going to use a couple of tools for this part of the assignment. We're going to use the rectangle tool, our shape tools. We're going to use our eyedropper and pull these tools out so we have them readily available. And the other tool that we're going to use does not have a pull out, but that's our selection tool. And the hotkey for our selection tool is simply the letter V on your keyboard. And we'll toggle back and forth between that quite a bit. The other thing we're going to toggle back and forth between is a view style, and that is called outline mode. The hotkey for that is Command Y on a PC, or Command Y on a Mac, or Control Y on a PC. And what that's going to do is allow us to go between a printing preview and an outline preview, just the paths on the page. So to start with, I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to start up in this section and draw the sun shapes, or the star shapes here, and then we'll work on the image of this beautiful sort of angel woman wrapped in fabric. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool and first select a background color here of this circle. And what's happening is, you'll notice it looks like the area right here that I'm choosing my color from is a very pale blue, but when I look at my selection, it's a much darker blue. And that has to do with the fact that this is a template. If I change my template options and make this uncheck the dim images, you can see that the area that I'm selecting from really does match that color blue. I'm going to go ahead and redim those real quick. And so the first thing I'm going to do is use my ellipse tool and make sure I'm on layer 1, and I'm just going to draw a circular shape to sort of cover that area. Now this is where the toggle that I talked about really comes into play, because I need to be able to see beneath this circle. So I'm going to use Control Y. And I notice in my layers panel that my eyeball has changed. So I no longer have the eyeball, I just have an outline, and I can now see through behind that circle to the next layer. I'm going to get my eyedropper tool again. And I'm going to select this color here in the middle area. Maybe I'll get something a little lighter. And I'm going to use my ellipse tool again. And now what has happened is, because I have this circle selected, and I can tell it's selected because I have this blue box here, I'm going to go ahead and do Command Y. Every time I changed that color, it actually changed the color of my circle. So there's that real dark color that I liked. What I'm going to do is get my selection tool, click off of the circle, come up here and go View, Outline. This is also Command Y or Control Y. Now I have nothing selected. I know nothing is selected because I see no little anchor points highlighted. And on my layers panel, I have no blue box on this layer. I can actually open up this layer with this little arrow here, and that'll show me what I've got going on. So now I'm going to use my eyedropper tool and select a color that's a little bit lighter. And I'm going to draw the next circle here. And the goal of this assignment is not to completely duplicate this image, but it's to use basic shapes to get the feel of the movement in the composition. So again, I have nothing selected. I'm going to click over here, grab my eyedropper tool, come pick a color out of this sun center that I like. Draw another circle here. If I hold down the Shift key, I'm guaranteed to get a circle. If I don't hold down the Shift key, I can do an oval. I'm going to move this a little bit here. so that it's right where I like it. Again, this is not an assignment about exact. This is an assignment about feel. So now if I use Control Y or Command Y, I can go back and see that I have those 3 shapes on there. And I like to work in layers. It helps me to sort of organize what goes where. I also like to work from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and by bottom to the top I mean the things in the background are the first things I work on, and then I work forward through the image. Now I'm going to use my eyedropper tool to pick up some of this color. I'm going to work on this arc next. And I'm just going to draw a shape that's close. Line it up. And I can use my anchors there to kind of reposition that. Close the layers panel. And I'm going to click off of it. Remember, I need to click off of it before I use my eyedropper so that I am assured that I'm getting the right color and that I'm not changing the color of the element I'm working with. And use another oval here. I'm going to switch to my selection tool so I can resize this oval by grabbing the anchor points that are highlighted by the bounding box. There's one at the top, one in each corner, and one in the middle of each side. And so I'm going to resize that till I'm happy with it. And you notice I've accidentally pulled my layers panel out of my panel dock over here. I can grab this little dotted bar, move it back in. When it turns blue, I know that it's going to pop right back in there. If you happen to lose it, let's say you pulled it out accidentally and then you've closed it and it's gone away, you can find that under the Windows panel. Windows, Layer. There it is. So we'll move it back where it belongs. And I'm going to use again Command or Control Y to toggle back to my composition. And I'm going to make a new layer. I like to lock my layers as I go. This prevents me from accidentally selecting them and moving them. I'm going to go ahead and go back Command Y. And now I'm going to I'm actually going to put a new layer in here because there's this beautiful dark background area. So in this case I want it to be the very bottommost layer. So I can just select my template layer and the new layer button. It'll go right above that. And I'm going to get my eyedropper tool, pick this color here, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle down beneath. And this layer is not currently set up as an outline layer, so I'm going to do Command and Control Y. That turns them all back on and turns them all off. And I'm just going to continue to work through my composition, adding a piece at a time. The next thing I'm going to focus on is her hair and her face, and I'm thinking about shapes. So one of the shapes I notice is that her hair has sort of a triangle shape to the back, and then this front part curves down. So to create that, I'm going to actually use 2 tools. First, I'm going to use sorry, I grabbed the star tool. I actually mean to use the Polygon Tool. So I'm going to continue with the Polygon Tool, and I'm going to start actually by choosing this red color from her hair. And I'm going to grab my Polygon Tool. All of our tools in Illustrator work a couple different ways. First of all, I can just click and I'll get a dialog box with the options for the polygon. I can tell it how many, what the radius I want to be, and the number of sides. And sometimes that's okay. In this case, that doesn't really help me much. I'm going to go ahead and delete it with the delete key. And this time I'd like to draw it. And in doing that, I have 6 sides. As long as I continue to draw, I can use the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard to change the number of sides. So in this case I want 3 sides, and I'm going to rotate that just about that size. I'll move it over here. I can use my cursor and my selection arrow, my black arrow tool, to change the size of that a little bit, line it up. If you find that some of these layers are distracting, you can toggle their visibility on and off using the eyeballs on the layers panel. And the next shape I want is going to be an oval. Now I need the oval to be a little bit on a rotated oval because the angle of her face is more horizontal or diagonal there. So I'm going to stretch this oval. Then notice if I take my cursor right outside that bounding box, I can rotate the oval, line it up. And now I want another oval that is similar in size. So I'm going to grab my oval tool. I'm going to use my selection tool, make sure I have nothing selected. Get my eyedropper, choose a color out of the face, and draw the oval. And get my selection tool, rotate the oval, elongate it a little bit. And now when I go back to a full view, the print preview with Command Y or Control Y, this is what I've got going on. So this is what my composition looks like so far. And I'm just going to continue to add. I can add with ovals. In this case it's not the color I wanted it to be, so I'm going to use my eyedropper tool and sample a color out of the composition. And remember, if I'm not sure what color I want, I can use Command Y or Control Y to pull a color out of the template. So now when I go back, I can see that I have that full color there. And so I'm going to continue to work on that shape. Remember, the goal here is not, again, is not to duplicate this image exactly. The goal of this assignment is to capture the feeling and the movement of this image. Once we've got all the basic shapes in our illustration or in our composition, I'm going to go ahead and use Control Y again so we can see the whole thing. There's sometimes spots that we need to do a little fixing. For example, in this area, I used a circular shape to create this swash of fabric, but we have a background that is different and is sort of overlapping that. So when I look at this, I'm going to come find the layer. In this case it's layer 8 that has that color. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer right above it. And I'm going to use my circle tool, and I'm going to sample the black dark background there. And I'm going to create a shape here to mask out that part. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my circle tool again, and we'll come, make sure I have nothing selected, get my eyedropper tool and choose this color of blue here, and we'll just fill in that shape, make sure that we're matching that shape nicely there. And we'll do the same thing with the lighter blue. And some of these I may need to resize a little bit. There we go, line those up nicely. And last but not least, the moon. Now this moon shape doesn't overlap any of our other objects, so I can actually go find the layer that it's in. In this case it's in layer 1, and I can take this if I want and drag it all the way to the top. I'm actually going to make a new layer called layer 12. This is one of my favorite Illustrator tricks. I have this path on layer 1 selected. I know it's selected because I have a little blue box. I have the double circles, and I can actually take the little blue box beside layer 1 and click on it and drag it to layer 12, and it has taken that element and moved it to the new layer. So I can close all my layers and just drag that layer 12 up so that it's completely visible. So when I'm finished with my composition, again, this assignment is not intended to have you make a complete exact duplicate. It's to help you understand the ideas of shapes and color. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go File, Save, and as with everything for our class, go ahead and save it as a PDF. And you can call it Dynamic Composition. I'm going to call mine Dynamic Composition, and I'm going to give it an underscore and call it From Video. And this will be available in our course shell for you to use as well. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. You'll want to make sure that you always have Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities checked. And I'm going to go ahead and save the PDF, and that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you on the flip side.